So your viewpoint, your perspective, your ideology, your way of seeing life has gotten you to where you are right now. Wherever that is in life, the way that you see it, the way that you think is the reason why you are where you are in your life. I know we sit down oftentimes and we talk to our friends, family, and anybody who will listen about our strategy, our philosophy, our perspective, our viewpoint on life. And it's good to bounce thoughts off of other people sometimes, but that's not the real question. Yes, we all have a plan. We all have thoughts. I think Mike Tyson said that, every person has a plan until he gets hit, right? So it's when life hits you, what is the plan then, right? What are you going to do when life hits? Now, the question is, to me, what does your thinking produce? What does your philosophy produce? And when you look at your life, you look and you see exactly what it's produced. So now the question is, are you satisfied with those results? Are you happy with the trajectory that your life is on, that your business is on? That's the question that you have to answer. I think when we look at it that way, we have to really assess ourselves. When we start to look and say, okay, here's my strategy. So what has that strategy produced over the last 3, 4, 5 years, over the last 1 year or 2 years? What has that way of thinking produced? Now, it may not have come full circle just yet, but it still can tell you where you are. Are you still on path, or are you off the path of success to take you to where you want to go? What's the deal on that? Doing true assessments. And I think when we start to evaluate our thinking from the standpoint of what has that thinking produced, it makes us look at life more realistically, right? It pulls us out of this fantasy world. Your thinking has gotten you to exactly where you are right now. Is that where you want to be? I hear people all the time, they'll start telling other people about what their perspective is, what their strategy is. But when you look at that person's life, they haven't achieved what they wanted to achieve with that strategy. So why would you be passing that on to somebody else as if that works? Because you haven't truly made a proper assessment on yourself, I believe. Ask yourself that question. What has my thinking produced over the last 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever the number is? What has your thinking produced? How old are you right now? If you're 45 years old, what has your thinking produced in 45 years? If you're 35, what has that thinking produced in 35 years? And if you want a different result, you have to change your thinking. You can't keep thinking the same way, because you come to the realization that that thinking will not carry you to the destination you want to reach. And when you're serious, when you know that thinking doesn't take you there, you have to change that thinking. It's hard for people to change their thinking sometimes because they've been practicing a certain way of doing things, right? But when you understand that that way, that methodology won't get you the results that you want, it makes you change. It forces you to change, right? Changing your mind, changing the way that you think. In order for things to change for you, you have to change. Life is what it is. Life will happen to us, every single one of us, but it's not really about what happens in life. Is what you do about what happens. And your thinking drives what you do. So the trick is to change the way that you think, to change the way that you see the world. Because the world is not what you think it is sometimes, because you're not in right thinking. We have to come into right thinking. And what is right thinking? I think right thinking is seeing the world as it is, not necessarily as you want it to be, and making decisions based off of that, not a fantasy world, right? Making decisions based off of what it is, not what you think. Because then you're making decisions, you're making good, solid decisions based off of the real deal, based off of what exactly it is. And that's better than making decisions off of what we think. What you think, what your perspective is, what your strategy is, all of that is yours. But you have to measure that. You have to find out what has it produced. Think of it this way. You and I, we are what we repeatedly do. What you and I are doing over and over and over again, we eventually become that. We evolve into that because that's what we've been doing. So excellence, it's not one act. It's not going out and doing something one time and now I'm excellent at it. It's about the repeated steps, the reps of doing it over and over and over again. The same way with working out. You can't just go in and do it one time. You have to do it over and over and over again so you can develop yourself. The same way in life, the same way in business. Repeated steps. We become what we think about. The thoughts that we generate in our mind, we act on those thoughts, right? If you sow a thought in your mind, from that thought comes an action. If you sow an action in your mind, from that action, you develop habits. If you sow a habit in your mind, from that habits, the habits that you develop, you walk into your destiny. That's how it works. If we would focus on those things, focus on what it is that we're thinking, then we will do what it is that we're thinking. That's why it's important to have good thoughts, to put our goals on our minds, and then align ourselves with that, align our actions with that, and we can walk into our destiny. We can have the things that we want in life. We can have the things that we want in business because we are constantly working toward those things. That's how it happens, not based off of some idea of, oh, it just falls into place. It falls into place, certainly, but it falls into place because of the work you're putting in, the belief that you have in yourself, the belief that you have in the God that created you. That's what I wanted to share with you today. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy this life. Do the things that you want because we only have a certain period of time here. And that time period is not long for a lot of us. And even when it's long, it still doesn't seem like it's quite long enough. Enjoy life to the very fullest because you deserve to. See you at the top because the bottom is much too crowded.